Have you ever felt your hobbies were too simple to matter? You walk the dog, you water the plants, you fix a small thing that broke, or sit at the kitchen table with the radio on. And somewhere along the way, a quiet voice asks, does any of this really count for anything? Most of us have felt it, that the things we do, alone and unnoticed, are too ordinary to say much about us. But what if the opposite is true? What if the quiet things you do when nobody is watching say more about your mind than any test ever could? Most people picture intelligence as chessboards, difficult books, and brilliant people talking fast in rooms full of other brilliant people. In everyday life, though, a sharp mind usually looks much quieter than that. It looks like a man in his garage, sitting with an old machine that went silent, trying to understand why. A woman in her garden, noticing one yellow leaf before anyone else would ever see a problem. Someone walking a dog slowly, reading every small change in its step, its mood, its pace. From the outside, none of these look like intelligence at all, and yet each one reveals something highly intelligent people quietly share. Because to a sharp mind, solitude is not loneliness, it's a workshop, and these 5 quiet hobbies are where the real work happens. Now, let me be honest with you, none of these hobbies prove a high IQ. Nothing does that in a single habit, but they often reveal the habits of a sharp, observant mind, the same ones shared by people like Darwin, Feynman, and Bill Gates. So as we go, keep a quiet count of how many of these you already do, and pay close attention to number 1, because it may surprise you. From the outside, it looks like the least intellectual thing on this entire list, and yet it may reveal the deepest kind of intelligence of them all. If you're here not just to pass the time, but to understand what these small habits really mean, well, that already says something about you. Let's begin. Number 5, caring for dogs and animals, walking an old, slowing companion, reading a cat, comforting a frightened creature, or volunteering at a shelter, sitting with the animals no one else will sit with. From the outside, it can look like the softest, least intellectual thing on this list. So how on earth could this be a sign of a sharp mind? Here is why. A dog cannot tell you what's wrong. It cannot say I'm in pain, or I'm frightened, or something feels different today. So the person who cares for it well has to do something remarkably difficult. They have to notice. The changed step, the quieter tail, the meal left untouched, the look that lasts a second too long. That is not a small skill. That is close observation, practiced every single day. Caring for an animal trains a rare and quiet kind of intelligence, the ability to understand what is never said out loud. And it takes something the sharpest minds are wrongly assumed to lack, deep feeling. Because the most intelligent people are not always the coldest ones in the room. Very often, they are the ones who notice suffering first and can't quite look away from it. Even Charles Darwin, one of the most rigorous scientific minds who ever lived, spent years studying how animals show emotion. He wrote an entire book on how a dog's face and body revealed joy, fear, and love. He understood that reading a creature who cannot speak is not a soft, simple thing. It is one of the deepest forms of intelligence there is. So if you can walk beside an animal and know, without a single word, exactly how it feels today, congratulations. That is not a small thing at all. Number 4, cooking and baking from scratch, not opening a box, not reheating something frozen, but real cooking. A loaf of bread made from flour and patience, a soup that simmers all afternoon, a family recipe quietly kept alive across the years. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary chore. But cooking from scratch is chemistry, memory, timing, and care, all happening at once. A sharp cook doesn't just follow the recipe, they adjust. The oven runs a little hot, so they pull it early. The dough feels wrong under their hands, so they add a touch more water. They read the color, the smell, the texture, 100 tiny signals most people never even notice. It looks like instinct. It's really years of quiet attention, stored up and put to use. And when a dish fails, they don't just feel bad and move on. They ask what went wrong and they file it away because a sharp mind remembers the small details other people throw away. There is something deeper here, too. To cook from scratch is to hold time in your hands, to keep alive a recipe from a mother, a grandmother, a kitchen long gone. That is not just feeding people. That is memory and love made by hand. So if you still measure by feel, adjust as you go, and taste your way to right, instead of following the numbers blindly, congratulations. What looks like an ordinary kitchen is quietly one of the most complex things a human mind can do. And you've been doing it without ever calling it intelligence. Number 3, studying the small things most people simply walk past, looking up the name of a bird at the feeder, searching for what a plant actually needs, wondering what a certain dog behavior really means, and then actually going and finding out, tracing a face or a place in an old family photo, digging into local history or reading the manual everyone else throws away. From the outside, it looks like idle curiosity. It is anything but idle. It almost always starts with one small question. Why is this leaf turning? What kind of bird is that? Who is this person in this old photograph? And with a sharp mind, one question quietly leads to another, and then another. Most people stop at "I don't know" and let it go. A sharp mind can't quite do that. It stays with the question a little longer than is comfortable, and then goes looking for the answer. And notice this, the mind never really switches off. Even while doing something simple, part of it is still turning the question over in the background, until the answer quietly arrives, sometimes hours later. That restless, patient curiosity is one of the clearest marks of a sharp mind. Not knowing everything, but being unable to leave a good question alone. This is exactly what Bill Gates understood. Twice a year, at the very height of running the largest software company in the world, he would disappear, completely alone, to a small cabin in the woods. No meetings, no phone, just a stack of books and a week of pure, uninterrupted study. He called it his Think Week and believed his best ideas came not from the noise of the office, but from the silence of that cabin. So if you can't let a good question go, if you go looking for the answer long after everyone else stopped caring, congratulations. That is a sharp mind at work. Number 2, fixing and restoring what others simply throw away. The old radio, the lawnmower that won't start, a squeaky door, a wobbly chair, a bicycle in the garage that deserves one more good life. When something breaks, most of the world does one thing: they replace it, order a new one, toss the old one out. But some people do something different. They open it up, they need to know why it stopped working. This is not just tinkering. Fixing is thinking with your hands. And sometimes the delay looks like laziness, a broken thing sitting on the bench for days. But it isn't laziness at all. It's a mind quietly turning the problem over in the background, waiting until it truly understands before it acts. You might even catch them muttering, "No, that's not it. Maybe it's the wiring, maybe it's the filter." That's not strange. That's a mind organizing itself out loud. There was a young physicist who did exactly this, Richard Feynman, who went on to win the Nobel Prize. While working on one of the most secret projects in history, he grew bored and taught himself to crack the locks on the safes that held the nation's most guarded secrets. Not to steal anything, but simply because he could not walk past a locked thing without needing to know how it worked. As a boy, he had fixed radios the very same way, sitting and thinking until the fault finally revealed itself. So if you'd rather understand why something broke than throw it away and buy another, congratulations. That patience, that stubborn need to understand, is the same instinct that builds bridges and solves equations. Your garage was never just a garage, it was always a kind of laboratory. And now number 1, the one I asked you to watch for, growing and observing living things. A vegetable garden, a row of herbs on the windowsill, tomatoes, roses, houseplants, a bird feeder by the porch that you find yourself watching a little longer than you'd ever admit. It looks like the simplest yard work in the world. and yet it may reveal the deepest kind of intelligence of them all. Because gardening is not just planting things, it is learning how slowly life speaks and training yourself to listen. A garden gives no fast answers. It changes by the hour, but only a little. And the intelligent gardener notices the leaf before the plant ever collapses. The small yellow edge, the soil a shade too dry, the one branch growing the wrong way, the tiny changes almost everyone else walks right past. And when something dies, they don't just shrug and forget it. They ask why? Too much water? Too little sun? The wrong soil? The wrong spot? They adjust. They try again. They hold their idea loosely, ready to change it the very moment the evidence changes. That flexibility, the willingness to let go of your first answer, is one of the truest marks of a sharp mind there is. No one understood this better than Charles Darwin. Behind his home, he built a small gravel path that he walked every single day. He called it his thinking path, and in his final years, one of the greatest minds in the history of science devoted himself to studying something almost everyone ignores entirely: the common earthworm. He watched them for years, patiently, because he knew the deepest truths often hide in the smallest, quietest living things. So if you can look at one yellow leaf and know that something has changed, congratulations. That is not a small thing at all. So there they are, 5 quiet hobbies: caring for an animal without a single word, cooking from scratch, studying the things others ignore, fixing what others replace, and growing living things. Not one of them looks like intelligence from the outside. And yet each one quietly asks for the very things a sharp mind can't help but bring: patience, attention, curiosity, and the ability to notice what everyone else walks straight past. Because in the end, intelligence was never only about speed or noise or looking impressive in a crowded room. Sometimes the sharpest mind in the whole house is the quiet one. Out in the garden at dawn, alone in the garage, or sitting on the floor with an old dog, noticing what no one else can see. Remember that the next time someone asks why you spend so much time on your own. So, how many of the 5 did you count? Leave the number in the comments. I'd love to know. And if you watch this all the way to the end, not just to pass the time, but to understand what these quiet habits truly mean, well, I think you already know what that says about you. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself and take good care of that quiet, curious mind of yours.